Sekeres and Price for Wednesday, March 20th. Happy spring, everybody. We're coming to you from the Go-Goat Sports Studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the iconic Wall Center. If you're heading to a game downtown, an event downtown, make it a staycation, call the Wall, 604-331-1000. As for the Sekeres and Price rates, some blackout dates may apply. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price, Grady Sass, hitting switches, conducting things. Big show coming up, all brought to you by Applewood Auto Group.
Applewood Mitsubishi in Richmond has the Outlander, the plug-in hybrid edition Outlander from 2024. First $10 of that puppy. And I love the way it drives. I love the size. 3 rows in mine. Get 3 rows in this puppy. And you skip the pumps more often than not. Go check it out. Take one for a test drive. Rate starting from 4.99% plus the industry's best warranty. It's all good at Applewood.
When does it turn from puppy to dog?
What, a vehicle?
Mm-hmm.
It's always a puppy.
Oh,
yeah.
Not a kitty.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tim Hortons poll question. Where roll up to win is here for Tim's 60th anniversary. Play on the Tim's app to win prizes. Daily cash jackpot 10K. You win the all-electric Volkswagen ID4 in a sun-soaked Hilton getaway. Download the Tim's app. Roll up is on until March 31st. Are Nils Höglander and Connor Garland the best wingers for Elias Pettersson? Yes or no? You can vote at Sekeres and Price on Twitter and YouTube. I voted yes. And I voted yes because Elias Pettersson is the priority. And getting him going, for me, is the greater need than having a fantastic third line. Much as I would like to see what Blueger, Joshua, and Garland can continue doing when Dakota Joshua gets back from that hand injury, I'm all about giving Elias Pettersson the best options on either flank. This is an incomplete team. They do not have enough scoring wingers, don't have enough firepower to match the fantastic center iceman that they have. So, at the risk of a awfully small, awfully light line in the playoffs, I'm still voting yes on Höglander, who I think has earned his way there, and Garland basically because Mikheyev and Suter and others have fallen flat. So, by process of elimination.
What's my answer? You know my answer. What's my answer?
You can always go back to Blueger, Joshua, and Garland in the playoffs. Well, you've been messaging that for weeks.
I think you should go back to them as soon as that's available. And you put the two Eliases together. That's what I think. But
that just doesn't seem to be a way the coaching staff is willing to go.
That's not what we're asking.
Yeah. Grady, what says you?
Prediction-wise, I don't predict that that'll happen, but that's what I would do.
Mm-hmm. Grady, what says you?
I would have Lindholm with Pettersson. You didn't acquire Lindholm to be a third-line center. To Blake's point, you already know what you have there, and they were one of the best lines in hockey there for a stretch. So I
felt that way, and not long ago I was messaging that as well.
Now in the short term,
I just, for me, again, Pettersson is the trump card here.
Bit of a small sample size here. In the short term, so far so good. Now it's a weaker Buffalo team that has played 3 and 4. So yeah, for the short term, fine, but long term, I don't think so.
Now the equation does change dramatically if, and this is a big if, and I'm not saying this is happening now, but last night was the first sign of it. What if Ilya Mikheyev is a viable winger again?
And we're going to get to Mikheyev here because Coach had some things to say about him. If Mikheyev is a viable winger, it solves some of your problems.
Yeah.
And then yes, you can reorganize that fantastic third line, and maybe even put Lindholm on the wing.
Yeah, right now.
But of course, you've got another passenger there in Suter, right? Like he hasn't done a whole lot recently.
No.
So if Mikheyev is up and Suter is down, then it's same.
Yeah, although Suter's been on a drought that's almost as long as Mikheyev's at this point.
That's it.
Yeah.
He has not scored a lot of goals. He doesn't even dent the score sheet all that often.
No, he's rarely at fault for anything. Again, safe player, but not really pushing you forward.
Let's get to our top story. Beating Buffalo 3-2, hanging on to beat Buffalo, but a fantastic debut, as mentioned, for the line of Pettersson, Höglander, and Garland. Big night in their first game together. Petey with 3 points, 2 goals. Quinn Hughes adds a pair of assists. Miller with a couple of assists. Garland with his 14th was a buzzsaw in this hockey game. And, much was made of Elias Pettersson's performance. Some uneven games here. Some games where you didn't notice him a whole lot. He was asked about his performance in this one.
Yeah, I was obviously happy with my performance today, and definitely our line. Garland makes a lot of good plays. Hart's keeping the way he is. It was a good first game with our line.
The Vancouver Canucks win this game 3-2 and hang on, as mentioned.
The rare empty net game winner.
16 high danger chances in this one. And look, the Buffalo goalie was terrific. Hasn't played a lot, but was terrific. We were talking before the show. How many high danger chances? You'd like to. We're picking nets. It's a victory. You would have liked to have seen a few more pucks go in the net.
Yeah. And generally, there might be some people yelling regression here from the start of the season. Generally, when you're thinking regression, though, it means that a team continues to average the same amount of shots, only fewer of them go in. The Canucks the last couple of games have had these great starts, vastly outshooting the opposition, and then it's going down. So the disparity is actually larger. Like now they're actually, it's beyond just simple regression. It's like super regression here, because the Canucks are getting a ton of shots, ton of great opportunities, and they're just not scoring. And they muscled in a couple of goals to make sure that they at least got the point. Obviously, the empty netter helps and gets the game-winning goal. But yeah, you hope that a night like that and a bit of an exhale victory, not that Buffalo's a big, formidable foe, but they're a desperate team, still thinking they're in the edges of the playoff picture. They were hungry last night. And in fact, the next two teams of opposition, they're in the same sort of boat. Montreal's not in that same sort of boat, but they're playing very well against contenders. Montreal is, and Calgary has whatever hopes that they have left. They're going to get some scrappy efforts, and the Canucks are still going to have to mind their business. And you hope that what they did versus the Sabres carries over, and they persevere and start to score some goals again.
Well, Rick Tocchet once again praising the team defense, and that has been very good here in front of Casey DeSmith. I think that's one of the storylines we should note here, that this has been a terrific team defensive effort in front of the backup goaltender who has had to be the starting goaltender.
Yeah.
Here for the last. Speaking of, we haven't asked this in a while. Do you see a Sheilov start here? Or you just keep riding to Smith?
Not with the team imperfect like they are right now. If
they're
win,
imperfect on the offensive end more than
totally
the defensive end.
But you want to keep the Oilers. Again, this goes back to our conversation yesterday. You can always make excuses for the better goalie. Just feel wise, I don't think I'm there yet. I think you get through these two games coming up and then see where you are for the game on Monday versus the Kings. Perhaps that's going to be a low scoring game. The Kings don't threaten you a ton. I think you hope to run the table here, go 3-0 this week, and then maybe get Sheilov versus LA.
Quinn Hughes with the hit of his career on Victor Olofsson of the Buffalo Sabres. Grady was at the game last night.
Yeah, you get to credit me for this video?
Yeah, absolutely.
Boom!
I see, and he had a little smile as he went back to the bench. Let's hear from the captain on his physical play last night.
Yeah, it's just it was funny. You don't see that much for me, but yeah, it was a good feeling. Yeah, it was almost like I scored a goal or something, so that was funny. But it's nice, being at home, and we're obviously first or second or third in the league, whatever we are, and the fans are into it, and it's enjoyable.
That's the kind of play that come playoff time might be needed. Now, not every night, but that was a well-timed, perfectly executed hit. There was no semblance of elbow up or anything untoward. Olofsson knew it too. It was just a good hockey hit.
Yep. And the coach had jokes. Take a listen.
Was a message around the league: don't go up the middle with Quinn Hughes. But it's true. You never know. You never know who might hit. That was a hell of a hit. That was I think he on the bench. He was actually smiling that he liked it that much.
The Canucks played physical at times. Even guys like Ilya Mikheyev were throwing the body around. Like it was needed.
Scary moment when JT Miller leaves the bench area.
Oh yeah.
In fact, Tocchet admitted he thought for a second, oh no, here we go. Canuck luck, impending doom, all of that coursing through the fan base. And JT Miller meets the media after the game in a stall saying, my ankle is fine, so save you guys from asking the question. At least he specified ankle. I thought he was going to say, my lower body is fine. Anyways, we'll see if it's fine Thursday against the Montreal Canadiens. But for the moment, it looks like disaster averted with JT Miller, the club's leading scorer, sitting 7th in NHL points after his effort on Tuesday. He's up to 89. Petey hits 82, so he'll be a point per game player this year. We knew that, but boy, he was in a bit of a slump there. We'll see if he can get to 100. He's going to have a terrific final stretch, but 11th overall in league points. And Hughes at 79, 12th in league scoring, and he's going to get to a point per game this season as well, provided he stays healthy and plays the remainder of the schedule or a portion thereof.
And he is starting to go dry. He's starting to get a bit of a drought as well. And with Makar on his heels, just a 4-point cushion right now for Makar. And look who's third in defenseman scoring up. Roman Josi up to 70 points on the season.
He's been good here as Nashville has been good here at large. Vancouver now with 94 points. It is one better than the Winnipeg Jets and Colorado Avalanche. Winnipeg with one less game played, so they continue to be a leader in the Western Conference in points percentage. 94 points does trail the Boston Bruins by 3 in top league standings, tied with Florida and the New York Rangers, if anybody is tracking the President's Trophy or the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. And lo and behold, Vegas lost again.
Did they?
To Tampa.
I saw Minnesota won today. Last night? What does that mean, Matt? It means it's a 3-point lead for the Golden Knights.
With a game in hand.
The Blues lost last night. If they had won, it would be a 2-point lead. So it was that close to being a 2-point lead as the Golden Knights went to bed last night. But that's close enough that the Golden Knights have to be a little bit nervous here, Matt. They're not playing good hockey, and they've got 2 teams that have a better than a shot in hell of catching them right now. I'm sure given what they did at the deadline, given all the risks they took.
Yeah, and given what Minnesota and St. Louis did as well.
Yeah, selling. So it's... Wow, what a story that would be after all the hand-wringing about LTIR. If somebody could put a scare into the Golden Knights about even making the playoffs, my goodness.
Well, therein, though, lies, and the commissioner spoke about this today, and of course, nothing to see here. Everything's going fine.
Yeah, no one has any problems with it.
No. Even though the insiders all report there are some GMs who are starting to have a problem with this. But therein lies the risk of LTIR ballooning. You're playing without some pretty good players.
Well, here's the thing.
Incidentally, Minnesota, we're a seller, but Connor Dewar, I'm not sure how.
Generally speaking, the LTIR template is you're a good team. You're in the playoffs for sure. You coast into the postseason, and then boom, drop all your talent back into the lineup come playoff time. But what if you're playing for your playoff lives? Now you're just sitting there nervously chewing on your fingernails while a possibly healthy Mark Stone, and I'm not saying he's healthy now, but April 5th, maybe he's healthy. And if that's the case, you're just keeping Mark Stone on the sidelines. The equation's a little bit broken here if the Golden Knights don't pick it up.
Canucks power play goes 1 for 5. Elias Pettersson citing opportunities, chances on every opportunity. So he felt that was a step in the right direction. We know that power play hasn't been very good.
It looked great last night.
It did.
Just the one goal.
It did. So that's encouraging.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned Mikheyev. And we'll hear from Rick Tocchet here. Boy, in the 13 games that's remaining, if Ilya Mikheyev can get back to being that puck hound that he is when he's at his best, that's, as you mentioned, a bit of a game changer for the Canucks. It's not long ago we were talking about, look, you can only play him on the fourth line now, the way he is looking.
He was a vacant spot on your lineup card.
He really was. Like, at best, fourth line, just go out there and play a few neutral minutes. Now he's actually making some positive contribution. Let's hear from head coach Rick Tocchet on the Russian winger.
Well, more energy. Looks like he's on the puck a little bit more. Yeah, you're right. Slashing, chasing down pucks. That's his game. And when he can do it, he can be a pest on that forecheck and get on defenseman. There's value to that. So hopefully that value will turn into some offense for him. But, I don't want him to. I want him to, obviously, he wants to score. We all want him to score, but I like the way he's doing it now. And if he does that, it'll start to go in for him. On that breakaway, things like that. It'll go for him.
And as we know with Tocchet, and we saw this earlier in the year with Phil DiGiuseppe, we saw this at different stretches with Connor Garland, you don't need to be scoring to be in the good books of this head coach. If you're doing the right things along the boards, defensively, and specifically on the forecheck, right? There were so many nights early in the year, go way back to the beginning of the year, when we were praising DiGiuseppe for doing all the little things. And then Connor Garland, that became his jam for a good part of the season. If Mikheyev can just be that guy, Blake.
Whose pocket did he pick behind the net there? One-on-one? Was it Dahlin? I mean, that was, to me, more important than the scoring chance that got him the penalty, but that he missed. I mean, he's notable for getting scoring chances and not missing. But the good news is even when he's missing scoring chances, if he's getting a lot of them, that means that he's got the puck. It means the Canucks have the puck, and it means that it's pretty far away from the Canuck net. So that's good, as long as he's creating scoring chances. And then B, the dispossessing and turnovers, again, 200 feet away from the Canuck net. I mean, that's great stuff. And if he's not going to score, he's going to make that turnover and then pass it to somebody who does score. That's just as good.
Mm-hmm. Meant to get to this story yesterday. Frygate.
Sorry?
Frygate. Did you not see
there was a bit of a hubbub, yes.
About Frygate?
15 fries on the plate. In the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Poster named Sarah Jones. Grady, you went to the game last night.
Did you get any fries?
Did you order the fries?
Nope. Hot dogs from Costco.
Didn't go for the 15 fry pack?
Wait a second. There was a news story at Rogers Arena Tuesday night at the concession stand, and you didn't go sniff it out?
You could have written it off.
Sleuth it?
You could have charged it to the company.
Absolutely.
I'm a cheap Dutchman. I could have got 4 or 5 hot dogs for the price of those fries.
Now you're not only failing in your editorial duty, you're getting us in trouble with Dutchman.
Thought about it. Fries are as a combo meal with a burger and a pop, sure. But I'm not going out of my way to just buy fries.
Apparently not. So, do we think this is simply the act of a rogue
That's a one-off.
concessionaire?
That's a
or
one-off.
do we think that they're actually trying to diminish the number of fries in a serving to save a few shekels for the billionaire owner? What do we think here? One-off?
One-off. Yeah.
I sure hope there was an abundance of fries per serving at Rogers Arena.
I think, honestly, if that was a repetitive thing, we'd have heard and seen a lot more about it.
I agree with Wyatt Arndt, the stanchion. Canucks got to lean into Frygate. They should award free fries to everyone tonight if the team gets more than 13 shots in the first period.
Which they did. But did you see this promo?
No, but you can still lean into Frygate. You can still do free fries if they score X number of goals or X number of shots or whatever the case may
More
be.
shots than fries on the plate.
That's how you re-empower it. Take ownership of the story.
You didn't see the promo last night they did here?
What was
First
it?
500 fans will get 16 fries. Score a deal to look. We got the graphic on the screen. Oh, wait, that's not from the Canucks. Oh, wait, okay, here. I found the right one.
Conti.
Austin and Langley. General Manager Patrick Elvine announced today that the Canucks have acquired normal portions of French fries.
Oh.
Details with its own press release.
It's a big acquisition.
Now, I didn't come empty-handed here, Matthew, so I did some digging.
Oh,
online.
good. I'm glad.
We have an updated photo of the proper portions. You ready for this?
Mhm.
Here you go. This is from Ricky Sanga, Canucks Twitter legend.
There you go.
I mean, I still don't think it's like not overflowing, but
No.
it's a little
There's
more
like
standard issue.
8 more,
Yeah.
10 more.
Oh, I think there's more than that.
Well,
I don't know about that. There's not. Maybe
How do you
Sam-
count the little burnt
Yeah,
ends? Is
those
that a
don't
full
count.
fry,
No.
or we go
No, it
3 of
doesn't
those to a fry, 2
No.
of those to a fry?
crunchy deep fry.
They're almost better though.
But that's your standard issue for sure.
Have burnt ends barbecue, not burnt ends fries.
Now you got me thinking burnt
Think
end
about
barbecue.
Burnt
Burnt ends
You
barbecue.
thinking
You
It's
buying
so
lunch
good.
today?
on a franchise? Just the burnt ends of the fries.
We
That's
just
it.
showed an awful lot of fries pictures right now, and I'm quite hungry. So
I have to get some wedges from Tim Hortons.
Oilers win, beat the Montreal Canadiens, get their 2 points. And yet, one of the problems the Oilers have now, even with their games in hand, is runway. You're just running out of clock here. 13 games left for the Canucks. Of course, Edmonton has a few in hand. There is one more head-to-head between these hockey clubs. So if Edmonton wins on out those games in hand, they're 2 back of Vancouver. Theoretically, they win the head-to-head. Then they can catch Vancouver. One of the other problems they have is regulation wins, where Vancouver has 37 to Edmonton's 32. Not to mention, they will hold the season series against the Oil because they've already won 3 games of the 4 that are coming.
the next 5 games are interesting for the Oilers too, just to see how much farther the Canucks can kick this can down the road and ensure that they finish in first place. But they get the Sabres tomorrow, so think of that game what you will. But then they head out on the road, Toronto, Ottawa, and Winnipeg.
yes, they have a late Eastern road trip. We noted this a couple of months back that the Canucks are back home here in the Pacific time zone for pretty much forever. And Edmonton does have to go through the East.
And of course, 2 of those games are tough outs. Toronto and Winnipeg are tough outs. So the Canucks could get some help from their Canadian brethren if the Buds and Jets can get one over on the Oilers, because the Oilers and 500 hockey gets the Canucks to 106, 107 points. To get better than that, the Oilers can only afford about 5 losses. So, if the Jets and Maple Leafs contribute a couple of those, and hey, the game right after the Jets, it's the Kings. So, 3 of the next 5 games for the Oilers are tough outs, and maybe the Canucks can get a little bit of help from the Oilers, who are not a great road team, by the way. They're only 6 games above 500.
And we got the tweet from JPAT here up on the
Yes,
screen.
the Canucks go 500 over the final 13 games. They'll finish with 107 points. Oilers would need to go 10-5-1 to get to 107. And then, as mentioned, the Canucks with their advantages in head-to-head and with regulation and overtime wins.
Do you think JPat's dad, the mathematician, helped him with that one, or do you think
No, Jeff's pretty handy
the
with
JPath
math
math
too.
was on point?
He would have come in handy
Mhm.
for a certain segment we did today on
Which
poll
one?
question results and percentages.
Oh, yes.
Just let it happen. Let it unfold naturally.
not to sewer the English lit guy, but it's clear he's an English lit guy and
Not a math guy.
not a math guy.
Should we
Not
let
gonna
people
apologize.
know about that?
No.
No?
They're going to get to it. They're going to listen to the pod. They're going to hear it.
Well, not everyone will.
Yes, they will.
Yeah.
Now they will.
You find that podcast and you listen
That's right.
to see what we're talking about. Final segment.
And
of
just
the show.
picture fries in your head when we
Yes.
have the whole Frygate discussion.
I've got enough pictures of fries in my head. I don't need any more.
Lastly here, And we'll get to more on this story later in the show in hashtags. But Chris Simon, NHL forward, passed suddenly. His family has issued a statement through his agent. His agent contacted ESPN's Kevin Weeks. Quote, the family strongly believes and witnessed firsthand that Chris struggled immensely from CTE, which unfortunately resulted in his death. So you have another NHL tough guy enforcer whose family, the family left behind, is fingering CTE and blows to the head as part and parcel of his decline in retired life from hockey and an untimely and far too early passing.
Yeah, and on a day in which the NHL lost 2 former players, you hope, and it's hardly a demand that I can make, but I hope that the families consider donating brains to science to verify all these claims, because then the NHL can stop trotting out there's no science behind this.
Or the science isn't quite there. The researchers at Boston University would say otherwise.
Yeah.
So anyways, league dealing with more on that file. And this is terrible, because here, I don't know about you, Blake. When I heard Chris Simon passed away, yes, is the first thing that jumped into my mind. And of course, you're waiting for confirmation. How did it happen? And then, needless to say, hours later, here comes the story.
Yeah.
And it's far too predictable. It's far too predictable for people that young, like in the middle stages of life, to hear the reasoning, to hear a brokenhearted family turn to this and go, after he stopped playing hockey, or hey, it's happened in football too. After he stopped playing football, we just started to notice some strange behavior, and in some cases involves dependency. And these are just heartbreaking consequences.
2011, 3 players in 1 year, including Rick Rippon and Derek Bougard. 2 in 1 day is unbelievable.
So when you watch, what's his first name? Matt Rempe? When you watch Rempe, and needless to say, he got all sorts of airtime, all sorts of oxygen with the way he's playing the game, coming up from the AHL and having an effect on the New York Rangers and having effects. There is a cost to watching this.
Yeah, and we'll see ultimately too for Matt Rempe, does it give him a career? Like all this exuberance, all this fighting? Is Matt Rempe a National Hockey League player in 3 years' time?
Yeah.
Does he play? Does he play in the playoffs? So all this is a great little snapshot in time. But do the Rangers actually let him on the ride come playoff time? We'll see.
And was there a stage fight the other night, or was it last night? Was it Ryan Reeves?
Yes.
Does anybody miss the stage fight? Like, is there anyone out there?
No.
The ridiculous stage fight that has nothing to do with the proceedings, just 2 guys trying to justify a role that's ever diminishing in the National Hockey League. Like, we're now, about a decade past, at least 5 years past. Oh, we need an enforcer who, we can't play him a regular shift. He doesn't play the power play. He doesn't play the penalty kill. But we want that like nuclear deterrent on the bench. And of course, the other side going, then we need our nuclear deterrent. We're long past the point where NHL general managers and head coaches see value in that role.
Well, I mean,
that role is almost extinct.
Matt, the Canucks are a first place team, have been in first for the entirety of the season with nobody that fits that
and look, I grew up on Don Cherry Rock'em Sock'em like everybody else. There was a time where I loved that element of hockey. And of course, if you can still play the game, like Bob Probert could play the game. There were a number of examples of tough guys, fighters in the league who could really play the game, had their role, had their niche. And in those cases, those are worthy NHLers. They help your hockey club. And if there's a little bit of intimidation on the other side of things, hey, that helps too. but the guy who's just purely the fighter, who brings nothing else to the table, the league has rightfully moved away from that. And I'd like to think we all look at it and go, yeah, that guy who's out there doing that job and that job solely, based on the consequences later in life that we're hearing about, that's something that we don't need back in the game.
Mm-hmm. But Matt, then there will be more slashing penalties.
No, but all those tropes, did any of them come true?
No,
Did stick work increase?
Well, the game has lost half of its fighting. I'm picking a number out of thin air. Remember, there used to be fights every single night, every single game.
Pretty much.
And that's gone. And guess what?
And look,
scoring is up, fun is up.
Everybody can play with the puck.
Yeah.
Everybody can skate. Hey, if it becomes a situation like Iginla and LeCavalier in the Stanley Cup final, where you're just battling so hard for so many games and you can't stand the other guy.
Something organic.
Exactly. Something organic, something that happens in the flow of the game from time to time. I don't think anybody is going to be crying chicken little about it. I think everybody understands that every once in a while, that fight is going to happen.
And it makes those ones even more
That's
enjoyable.
the other thing, Grady.
But I don't know how you legislate it down, but then allow for that one to happen because we want that one. I don't know how you
well, it's not that we want that one, it's that we understand why that one happens.
But I don't know how you
I don't understand why a stage fight in today's day, in this year, this season of the NHL, I just don't understand why it happened.
I mean, you can go to a game misconduct with a fighting, or you can go what the Q has done this year, which is a 10-minute misconduct with a fighting major.
Well, and that's a good point. The Q has moved towards eliminating fighting from its league. And the NHL is always late to every game, so I imagine.
But just think, late second period, early third period, two good players, Ryan Kessler and Kessler's had a couple of decent fights too in important moments. So that happens, and they're gone for the rest of the game because 5 and 10. I mean,
well, in every other sport, if you fight, you get thrown out for the game.
Yeah. So even if it's only a 10-minute misconduct, that's less severe than that. But basically, the only time a fight makes sense is in the first period. Then
perhaps I'm guilty of this Chris Simon death hitting harder. Watched him as a junior. Went to many Ottawa 67 games when he was on the ice, and he was absolutely huge. But it was clear at that level he could play the game, and really
wasn't
at the NHL level he could play the game as well.
Yeah.
So just terrible news.
By all accounts, a great teammate and a real role model for First Nations kids in this country as well.
Let's get to today's menu, and it's brought to you by our friends at Greta Bar. Greta, a great spot to catch the game throughout the season. Quick walk to the Rinker Stadium, go-to spot for food, drinks, fun before, after the game. Make it a Greta night, 50 West Cordova, or at gretabar.com. We'll talk to Frank Corrado here on this new line with Garland and Höglander alongside Elias Pettersson on the Quinn Hughes hit, needless to say, many around the National Hockey League talking. And the other thing, good clean body check too, right?
Executed perfectly.
Yeah. No, that's textbook.
Not unsafe.
That's not unsafe.
No.
That is exactly the physical component that we want to stay in the game.
And he met the player shoulder to shoulder.
Shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
Because Blake, again, going back to when we were watching hockey growing up, if that's Scott Stevens.
Oh, just went straight at him.
Oh,
blowing him up.
And you've got full license to blow the guy up and do untold damage to his brain and who knows what else.
Yeah.
But that is exactly the hit you're looking to keep in the game. So we'll talk to Frankie about that. We'll do some hashtags, the best and worst of Twitter, including more on Torts scratching his captain in Philadelphia. Rob Williams is going to join us today on Frygate.
Might get to fries.
We had to coax him into that, though. Somehow. Rob Williams, Daily Hive, offside. Had to be coaxed on Frygate. And there's a specific reason. And Grady, are we doing that other thing today or not?
What other thing?
Yeah.
On the show?
Yes.
No. Podcast.
No, on a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, on the podcast.
Yes.
Arpon
Basu.
Basu of the Athletic in Montreal. He's in town for the game. He stopped by our Go Goat Sports studio. Frank Corrado coming up next.
In a season like this, you never want to miss a single second of what's happening on the ice, and you want to be around your fellow fans, right? Well, Greta Bar YVR at 50 West Cordova, the perfect spot to do so. Hey, if you've got tickets, a great place to pre and post. They've got drink specials every single day. And if you don't have tickets, well, stick around and soak up the atmosphere with all your fellow fans, play all the great video games and air hockey, great air hockey setup as well at Greta Bar YVR. We'll see you there, 50 West Cordova.
Great Clips is the official hair salon of the National Hockey League. There are 37 salons in Vancouver and the Lower Mainland, all Canadian owned and operated. Download the app and find the nearest to you. When you're up next for a cut, you'll get a ready next text. Great Clips. It's going to be great. Joining us now, TSN hockey analyst, former Vancouver Canuck, Mr. Frank Corrado. And Frankie, PD got it going last night, 3-point night. His wingers were Nils Höglander and Connor Garland. We're asking on our Tim Hortons poll question, are those the right guys, the best winger options to play with Elias Pettersson?
Well, I mean, if you're going to get the results, then they're the best options. I mean, you tinker with things. I always find it interesting, though, when the Canucks lines come out and you see Pettersson and you see the names next to him. And it's been like this a lot this year, whether it was Mikheyev and Kuzmenko or, last night you see Garland and Höglander. You're like, man, he's got to do a lot. Like he's got to do a lot, which is expected because he gets paid a lot of money now. He's going to get paid a lot of money in the future. He's obviously the centerpiece of the team up front. But I mean, it's not like he has a 1B kind of winger with him. He's got guys that are good players, but he doesn't have that elite winger, or it doesn't seem like he does. I've really liked the way Nils Höglander has played, though. Like I think he's really playing himself into a guy that can be utilized in the, higher in the lineup and get some results and some production, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, like he doesn't get Draisaitl the way McDavid does. He doesn't get Marner the way Matthew does. Like, go down the list. Like
he doesn't even get Besser. He doesn't get Besser like Miller does.
He's got to do a lot of heavy lifting, man.
Yeah.
He's got to do a lot of heavy lifting. So it makes it even more impressive, the season he's had and the back-to-back seasons that he's had.
I have in the back of my mind that he is, and he's not coasting, but that he knows they're going to the playoffs and he wants to make sure that he's got his game for the playoffs, that he's waiting to flick the switch because he's waited this long for playoff hockey and he doesn't want to waste his energy.
Yeah, you know what? There's I don't know if you flick a switch. Like I get the sentiment there. It is hard though. It's hard just because the calendar kind of flips to the middle of April and things, the schedule changes. It's like now I'm really going to turn it on. I think mentally as players, there's something that happens where you're like, now I'm in playoff mode. So you can get yourself there mentally. But I think sometimes like your game just has to have that momentum building through where it's like instinctual and you're just playing and you're not thinking about that kind of stuff. But I even think, like, to your point, the bigger thing for Petey, and this has always been the case, when he's at full health, man, he's a different player, isn't he? Like when there's no wrist issues, when there's no, talk about maybe it's a groin, maybe there's something lingering, like when he is feeling 105%, let's say, he is exceptionally dynamic and he does things that he can't do otherwise. So to your point there, like maybe coming down the stretch here, it's a little bit of, we're in a great spot here coming into the playoffs. I want to play well, but most importantly, got an opportunity to play some playoff hockey here, which is really cool. And him being at 100% is a big time difference maker for the team in the playoffs. There's no sense in having a guy who's a little banged up going into the playoffs.
Alvin has messaged this week that, hey, all this is new for us. We haven't played a lot of playoff games, let alone even meaningful games in March. How much do you think playoff experience matters?
It does matter to a degree. When I think it really matters, when you lose that momentum, how do you get it back? And more importantly, how do you not let that happen? Like, I always think with playoff hockey, whether you've played it or you've watched it for a long time, it seems like there can be a minuscule thing that you say, okay, that's not a big deal. They should be able to get it on track after that. Meanwhile, that turns into something that cascades into more. And it's that kind of recognition that I think the reps and the experience and the years in the playoffs, like that's where that'll really pay off. But there is also something to be said for, we're kind of new at this, we're naive, and we're going to be, brash about how the way we do things, and we're just going to play. And there's something freeing about that as well, where you don't overthink things, you don't overanalyze the game. So yes, the experience is important when it comes to recognize the certain cues and moments in a game where, hey, maybe it's slipping away, or maybe this is a situation where I could have just bide my time or live to fight another day. But I love that mentality of, we're just going to go play, and we're going to play free, and we're just going to let it fly. And they have a lot of good players that can do that within reason, of course, like still being responsible when you play that way.
It's we've been prefacing a lot of our criticisms in the last couple of weeks by saying, folks, we realize they're a first place team, second in the league right now. And yet, this is what good teams do, is they fine tune. The last two games, they've blown leads. They came really close to blowing the lead last night as well. What do you think is up with that? Is that again like, you can blame a lot of the Canucks problems right now on the part of the calendar here, dog days, being on top for as long as they have, and yet it seems really tenuous when they play with a lead right now.
And you know what? That's not just Vancouver. That is not exclusive to this team. This happens everywhere around the league. Like, if you pay attention to all the different teams and what they've gone through, everyone is blowing leads right now, or coming close to maybe blowing a lead. It's just, it's okay from a micro point of view. I watch the game now, and I think it's harder to defend, because guys can't cross-check and box out the way they used to, so it's easier for guys to get to the net in the scoring positions. And you also have to think that as the game goes on, and if your team is down and you're pressing more, your urgency to go to the net and get to that area, like, it kicks in a little more. So now you're getting there with a little more ease. That's kind of what I see on on a micro level, but more on the bigger picture. It's just, like, the goal scorers are better than they ever have been. There's more skill than there's ever been on the ice. And we're living in a little bit of an era here where teams can blow leads pretty easily. Like, I was doing the panel last night on TSN for the Leaf game. It was 3-0 Philly. And sure enough, it's like, Leafs made a game of it. Philly scores, late in the game to make it 4-2. But I was like, the Leafs played for 15 minutes of that game. We had, we got to the point where there was 5 minutes left in the third period, and you could say that they played for 15 minutes and they made a game of it. And you're like, man, they can win.
The Sabres are outshot 2-1, and same thing.
It's not just Vancouver; it's everyone.
Yeah, I understand you'll be taking up Quinn Hughes' case for an upcoming TSN debate. We'll save that, Hughes versus Makar. But what did you make of the hit on Olofsson last night?
Dude, you know what? Watch out. Like, watch out when Quinn Hughes is on the ice. I love the progression in everything that Quinn Hughes has done this year. And it's so funny looking back at some of the narratives maybe coming into the year. It's like, well, he can't defend. Actually, he defends quite well. You know why? Because he skates better than basically everyone on the ice. So he defends well. He's obviously very competitive. Like, you just can't be that good of a player. You can't be that much of an impact player without being super ultra competitive as a guy. You can get an opportunity to lay a hit like that. I thought it was beautiful. Like, well done. Is there anything this guy can't do? Like, do we need him to sort out the French fry situation on the concourse maybe?
He's so solid on his skates, though. It would make sense that, he's obviously not big, but it would make sense that he could hit. He's so solid on his skates.
Yeah. That's exactly it. When you have that kind of base, and he never seems like he's off balance, and think about the stuff that he does on any given night, you're like, holy smokes, man. Like, some of the stuff he does between him and Makar, okay, they do stuff that other defensemen might do one every couple games. Like, it just doesn't happen that often. Even like the really good D-men that we see around the league, it's like They do it every shift, and they do it multiple times a period. We're living in an era as well with these two guys where it's like, what can't they do? And Quinn Hughes laying a big hit last night. It's just a little reminder that, like, yeah, this guy, he can do a little bit of everything. I wouldn't recommend he starts looking for big hits, obviously, but
No.
like, it was pretty cool to see.
Well, you got to the bigger story here, Frank, and
we're gonna go Frygate with him.
well, we know how much the Corrado family values food, Blake. Do you not remember the best sauce that Nona Sal used to send us? If you're paying $6 for fries, how many fries should you get, Frank?
$7.99.
$7.99.
Here's the thing. If you're paying $7.99 for fries, it shouldn't be an amount that you should be able to count quickly. You know what I mean? Like,
it's true.
It shouldn't be like, oh, there's 15. You can't be looking down at it and say there's 15 fries. Like, it should just be a good portion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do you know what that reminded me of? Did you ever watch that thing on Netflix about the Fire Festival? And they had that sandwich with the piece of cheese on it and the white bread. That's what it kind of reminded me of.
That's a really good call. That's a really good call. Those were Fire Fest fries. Absolutely.
Yes.
Say that 3 times quickly. Talking praise Mikheyev last night. Says he's hounding pucks. He's, chasing pucks down, that's more his game. And frankly, he has been more noticeable of late. What have you seen of your old team?
That looked like Maple Leaf Mikheyev. Is that Maple Leaf Mikheyev?
Yeah.
That's exactly at his, he missed so many chances when he played for the Leafs. Like, he would get so many breakaways. He would beat guys wide all the time. He'd miss those chances. But at least if he wasn't scoring on those chances, at least he was hard to play against because he was really fast. He was hounding pucks. He was a great forechecker. So that should be the bare minimum that he gives you. And, you have to go back to the ACL. Like, you always have to when you talk about it. Like, he came back pretty much on time, maybe a little earlier than people would have expected. But coming back from an ACL is not easy. Ask Connor Brown how he's doing coming back from his ACL. And when your feet and your legs are your money makers, it becomes even harder, because now all of a sudden you're not a guy that thinks the game. You're a guy that skates the game. And, for him to be turning a corner here and finding that extra gear that he has and utilizing that's a big deal, because regardless of how much a player makes, when we get into playoff time, as long as they're bringing that one thing that really is their separator, if they're bringing that to the table, then now you have your roles on your team, and you have your guys that bring you those different elements, and that's a good sign for him, and it's a good sign for the team.
You done a lot of Montreal games this season. They were game last night in Edmonton against a red-hot Oiler team. What should the Canucks expect out of Montreal? Did they spend all their money last night in Edmonton? Do they have anything left here as they arrive in Vancouver?
I would say for the majority of the games with Montreal this year, they have no quit. They compete. They're in every game, and they're not an easy out. They've had the outlier, and there's a chance that could happen against Vancouver where they get blown out. Like, I watched them lose 7-2 to St. Louis one night on home ice, and it's just one of those nights. But they're just not an easy out. They stay in every game. And I give them a lot of credit for actually coming back in that game, because you think, like, Montreal, they are who they are in the standings. You go down 2 to Edmonton Edmonton, it's like that could turn into a 4-0 game pretty quickly, and that has happened to them this year. But that's just they've kind of embodied, Marty St. Louis' whole persona, where it's, scrappy underdog mentality, never quit, and even being around the room and talking to some of the guys after morning skate, they love it. Like, they've taken a lot of pride in being this team that's not an easy out, and they're always in the fight. And sometimes they don't win the fight, but they're in it a lot. So for Vancouver, if you're looking at it as this is going to be a team that's going to roll in here and we're going to, pedal to the metal, beat them easily, it's unlikely to be the case. It can happen, but they've been scrappy all year long.
Canucks have not been in a postseason in 4 years, Frank, and that was the expanded bubble field of 2020. Haven't earned their way to the Stanley Cup playoffs in 9 years. We were talking earlier in the week. Should Canucks fans be happy just making it, or because the season they have is their expectation on the group?
They should be happy to make it for sure. And I think everything that has happened in the regular season here, them being in first place in the league for a long time, like that's all gravy. That's all bonus points. And I don't know how you guys feel about this when it comes to teams that have postseason success. Like Florida, they win the President's Trophy 2 seasons ago. They fizzle out to Tampa Bay. Last year, they go all the way to the finals. It feels like the teams that are having the success in the postseason are the teams that have been kind of knocking on the door. Like Vegas has been knocking on the door. Boston's there every year. Carolina's knocking on the door every year. Edmonton, so for Vancouver, they kind of are the new kids on the block. And there's teams that have kind of been there and they've gotten their toe in the door and they're trying to break it open. Vancouver's not quite there yet. Like they're trying to be the team that kind of gets their foot in the door. And if they can, make some headway here in their first time in the playoffs in a long time, I think that's bonus as well. Because you're talking about, you're in the mix with a lot of teams that have had this group together going, playoffs after playoffs after playoffs. Vancouver's not that team. So I think to a degree, you should be satisfied with the fact that they are there. And, and anything that comes after this is bonus points for me.
Speaking of bonus, and I know it's a bit of a punchline, but it's there for you. Do you want to win the President's Trophy? Would anybody bring that up in the room of, in the final week, if they're 1 point ahead, 1 point back? Like, do they care at all?
I don't know. I don't think the President's Trophy is that big of a deal, which, if you follow soccer, which you do, it's like you win a regular season. That's a big deal.
I mean,
right?
Yeah.
In Europe, that's massive. Sometimes winning the regular season is bigger than winning the playoffs, which is totally different than how we do things here with hockey. But it's just like, when's the last time a team won? I think it was 2012, 2013 when a team won the President's Trophy and then won the Stanley Cup, and I think that was Chicago. So it has been a bit of a curse. But I don't think that's something that really gets talked about. I think it's more about the process of making sure that your game is in order and everyone's doing the things that they need to do in order to have some playoff success.
It was that Hawks team. Vegas, they going to make it?
Oh,
yes. They will make the playoffs. I can't see a situation where they don't make the playoffs. It's just, when does everyone come back? Like, when do they actually get the reinforcements? Because this Vegas team that's playing right now is vastly different than the Vegas team that could be playing game 1 of the playoffs if, salary cap is finished and everyone's back from LTIR. They just need to tread water just enough here. But I can't see a world where Vegas misses the playoffs. I know it's close. I get that. But I don't know. Like, they're 3 points up on Mini. They've got a game in hand. I can't see them missing the playoffs. Can you?
They're probably fine. They're probably, it's not like the Wild or the Blues really have much that you'd be like, yeah, but that team's, the Wild and the Blues are a very flawed team. So I wish there was a team that was just a little bit more exciting behind them that you could picture sort of a rally here. But you're right. If you're 3 points up, you got a game in hand, you're probably okay.
You should be. But with that being said, it does add some intrigue to what that first round matchup would look like. What does Vancouver versus Vegas look like if this is the Vegas team that they're going to play? It's stating the obvious, but Vancouver would love that matchup and they would probably eat that team alive. But if it's different, if Stone is back and Hurdle's playing, and what a waste it would be if they actually missed the playoffs and they made all these moves and you get Noah Hannafin. It would be such a waste.
Yeah,
it would be glorious. Speaking for the ABV crowd.
Yeah.
Frankie, thank you for this. We'll let you get back to the Twins and catch up next week.
All right, boys. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.